Howdy. Before we get into the video, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about this project. This was one of the biggest projects I've ever taken on. It took about 4 or 5 months, I want to say, kind of like start to finish. And this is kind of what they look like, just a little sneak peek before you get to see the whole process. But my goodness, this is a long project. It's a hard project. I practically just made this guy a brand new pair of boots and reused the shafts. That was about it. So hope you guys enjoy this. Thank you again for watching and clicking. Enjoy. Howdy and welcome back. Today we got a really big project. So this customer sent me these boots. He bought them secondhand and they're 11.5D, I believe. Yeah, they're 11.5D and he wears an 11.5 double E. He says, can you make them wider? And I was like, yeah, not a problem. And then I saw the pictures, and these uppers are just so cracked. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to reuse the vamps and the heel counters because they're cracked. And when I go to stretch them to make them wider, it's just gonna rip and tear. So we decided to replace the vamps and the heel counter covers, what I believe it's called, and that way we can actually make them into an 11.5 double E. And so the customer also sent me this, which this is Kangaroo leather. Oh yes, it's a real Kangaroo, and this is what we're going to be making the vamps and the heel counters as. We're not going to be doing it out of the smooth because the smooth has a whole bunch of just blotches and stuff, so we're going to be doing a rough out Kangaroo leather. See, there's plenty of room here to make what we need to make out of it. So we're going to be doing a rough out Kangaroo leather cowboy boots, and we're only going to salvage the shaft of the boot. So we're gonna take everything apart, basically undo all the stitching, use these as a template to create a new vamps, a new heel counter covers, and then we got our 11.5 double E last here. We got some measurements from the customer, and we're going to be remaking these boots, basically custom building a pair of cowboy boots and using the shafts from these. That's about it. So let's get started taking the soles and everything apart. It's gonna be probably one of my biggest projects I've ever taken on, but I know the process. I've seen it in my head. If you guys watched one of my last videos with the combat boots, I basically did the same thing, replacing the vamps and the heel counter covers. So I know I'm gonna be able to do this. That's gonna be real nice. And the customer will have a custom pair of Kangaroo rough out cowboy boots. So everything on the bottom has to be replaced. Someone did a half sole on these, which not too bad. Actually did a fairly good job. I kind of messed up the welt though, because you're supposed to, when you take the soles off for doing a half sole, you're supposed to take all the stitching out of the welt to restitch it. This has, I think, 3 rows of stitching on there, which means these have been resoled a couple times before, and they just, every single time they restitched it, they just stitched it on top of all the old stitching, which is not the right way to do it, but that's going to be all right because I'm not going to reuse anything on the bottom here. So I'm not going to waste your time trying to take everything apart. I'm just going to take it apart and come back when taking the vamps off. So we got soles off, footbeds out, everything taken apart so far. I'm gonna take it more apart, but we got this little seam right here and a different seam right here. Now this seam runs all the way up and down the boot. So when they're making it, they take the two pieces of leather, they stitch them like this, so like right down the middle, and then they fold it, and then they actually put a secondary piece. It's called a piping right there, and it goes all the way down. And you see it's folded in with the piping and stitched. So kind of the same thing with this section, except you got this piece running all the way down. So it's kind of, I mean, I've never seen something like this, but it's just gotta take it apart or put it back together the same way you took it apart. So we're gonna unstitch the bottom section here, being careful not to rip it or cut anything we don't want to cut, because this piece right here we're reusing. I want to keep it in good shape. There's 3 rows of stitching holding it all together. Just cutting it up a little bit further so it's out of the way. And that is the original color of the boots. And so the next step is, I don't know, we just gotta unstitch everything that's holding the vamps on. Start from this side, and there's 3 rows holding this on too. I don't know if you guys, probably guys can't see what I'm doing. All right, so we got the front vamp off along with the inside lining. We want to keep this piece as a template so that we can make a new one and have the same shape. Line's actually in really good shape. This is the toe counter. This is what helps give the toe that shape and stiffener, so it's not all soft and yeah. So we'll take that out, kind of soften this up, let's try to flatten it out. That was a stretching solution, so we're gonna do that. Try to flatten it out. And so, like I said, we're going to use this piece as a template, and then we got to copy that stitching onto the new piece. But new linings, because this kangaroo leather is kind of thin, and so it's okay if it's thin. I mean, it's a little bit thinner than the actual original leather. But we're just gonna make up for that with a thicker lining when we put it back together. So now I just gotta take this back section off. I'm gonna try to reuse the piping that was on the boot so it stays all one piece. There's the heel lining, which seems like it was just a solid piece of leather. So it was a heel lining and the counter. So we got the boot shafts inside out, and you can see it was made by Stewart Boot Company originally. And so we did something, since we're remaking these, we did Recrafted by the Shoe Man with Angels Custom Creations, size 11 double E, and genuine Kangaroo. So yeah, that'll be on the back side. Once we take it and turn it right side out, let's see if I can do it real quick. This is the lining, by the way. It'll be a gray lining. You won't really see it from the inside, but there's the Stewart part right there. Oh, you can see it. So in the front will be our logo, laser engraved by my wife. Super cool. So we've got our lining, front lining in and stitched. We are getting our toe counters lasted, which are drying right now. These are the plastic ones that they used. So we'll get those ones. Once that dries, take that off. And then these are the leather heel counters that originally came with them. I'm gonna reuse these because this is one solid piece of leather, and they thin out the edges. The center is like super thick, so this is in really great shape. We'll be able to reuse these and reshape these. I just sanded and cleaned up the inside with some conditioner and everything. So next step is to get the front vamps cut and stitched on. We'll get the back cut and stitched on, get everything into place. Then we'll be ready to last and shape the shoe. So at this stage, I have them lasted, but I'm not happy with them, and I'll tell you why. They look good, except right there at the toe. Do you see how it's like a loose grain compared to up here? It's a lot more tighter. So I didn't have much of the hide to work with, but I tried to make it work, and that's right where the edge of the hide was. And I thought I'd be able to tuck it up underneath it when I lasted it, but there wasn't enough material. So I ordered some more Kangaroo, and I'm going to have to take this apart and redo it all over again. Also, you see that hump right there? I want it to go up higher. So I want it to be like more up here so that it kind of rolls into it, and it's not just this weird bump right here. It should be up here. So starting all over on this. I'm gonna take this all apart. That way we can do it right. And also, I mean, that's a very thin part of the leather, so I don't want him wearing holes in that prematurely, because you're not supposed to wear holes, and it's already a thin material as it is. So adding using a thinner piece isn't the best. That's why we have a thicker leather lining to use to support the thinner hide. So I'm gonna, like I said, take this apart, try again. Alrighty. It has been a really long time since I last spoke to you guys about this project. We got them back from the customer, and he says they fit great, and so we are now ready to move on. We got our new welt stitched on. He chose a natural welt to kind of try to tie into the shaft. We got our cork in. There's a little bit of the shank left in there. We used a nice 3-ribbed shank to give them support. We're going to put a heel rand, which is just a piece of leather that kind of ties and goes in the back here. Then we'll be ready for our new soles. We're going to do some sole guards on these as well, so it's just a thin rubber over the top of the leather sole. Clean condition, polish these up, waterproof them, and we will be done with this project. This has taken a lot longer than I had expected, but they are actually starting to look like a boot, which I am, again, really happy about. We got our heel rand on. We have a leather, I guess you'd call this a shank cover, even though there's cork underneath it. This is going to help support his foot right in the arch, and kind of when you put the new sole on, it'll give us a little bit of a bump in the middle. Kind of like a, if you guys know what a, oh, what's it called? A fiddleback waist. And, well, that sucks. I glued the wrong sole to the wrong side. So this is supposed to go the other way around. But let's see if I can make this work. Potentially. It's a pretty big piece of leather. So I might be able to make it work backwards. Yeah. A little close right there, but I think it'll work out just fine. And we'll just have to do the same thing to the other one. As I was saying, these boots kind of have a high arch. You see, this is the last, so it has that really high arch. And so I kind of want to make it look like it's like a hump. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys or not, but I'll show you when we're done with it. So once we have the sole on, we have it rough trimmed, rough shaped. Next step is to put our rubber sole guards on, just like that. Now, I could keep it simple and keep that straight line, you know, cut a notch, stitch it, glue this on, trim it, new heels. We'd be good to go. But I wanted to challenge myself, as if this project wasn't challenging enough. Took this one, or I took the pair, and I created a little V. And so what we had to do was, instead of cutting a straight line, we had to cut that little notch so that it will sit in perfectly flush. And so we did nails as well as lemon wood pegs to hold and secure the heel back. We did brass tacks and then also lemon wood pegs in the shank area. So technically it wasn't needed since the welt goes all the way back here. It'll be nice and secure, but the customer requested it. And so we're gonna do it. It's a nice little touch. The next step after this, once I have it here, is to stitch it. So we're gonna do that right now. Then we'll be able to put this on, put some new heels on. Final trim, clean condition, good to go. I put the tape on here because this leather gets super dirty real easily, and I don't want to take any chances. So we are making progress. Oh man, why can't I just keep things simple? But I think this is gonna look really cool. It is gonna look really cool. It's gonna work out really well. I think the customer will be really happy. Whew. That was nerve-wracking. Doesn't look too bad on the bottom. We grooved that channel so when this piece comes on, there's no lumps. And when this wears down in the future, all we gotta do is take this off, lightly sand this, and that way we don't hit the stitching, and then we can put a new piece on. Now, there's that top stitch. Not too shabby. Alrighty. This is probably one of the most nerve-wracking steps, for me at least, in this job. We gotta line this up perfectly with that. And you know, when I tested it, it was fine. But actually, you know, putting that into effect, it's kind of a different story. If you don't get it right on, you get some weird gaps in there, and then it does not look good. But I think we got this one right on where I want it. Just kind of using the edge of this heel prior along that seam right there, and that'll give us that nice and a crisp line that we want. Right. Crisis averted. Now it's fairly simple. New heels, final trim, clean, waterproof, the uppers. We are finally going to be done with this project. Okay, so I'm working on this second one here. And remember that piece I told you we put right in here? Now, remember I told you it'd give us a little bit of a hump? Very, very minor, right? But you can see how the sole curves down, but there's this kind of, there's a ridge right there. I don't know if you could tell that line. That's kind of like a fiddleback waist, almost, not exactly, but the same concept. And so it just adds a little bit extra touch to the whole aesthetic of the sole, because then this piece comes in, you know, and lines up right up with that line going straight back. And then you got your brass tacks with your lemonwood pegs, nice cream stitching. It just all ties together. We are done with this project. They're right there, and I am extremely happy with how they turned out. Now, it seems like forever for me, but for you guys, you remember that we placed this front panel, this back panel, everything on the bottom got replaced. You see, new Vibram heels with those, I guess you'd call these sole guards. Now, it looks to me like, it looked at first like it was too far forward, but when I set it on the counter, it actually sits right here, which is like right in the center of the rubber. So he's not gonna have to worry about walking on the leather. It just looks like it's too far forward because this kind of curves up, but it actually sits really nice and balanced. Now, this was, which side of this? Oh, this was the lining. Oh, this was the line. One of them was the linings. I forgot, but I mean, like I said, it's been so long. That was that back heel section that we replaced. Anyway, it's been a long day, but again, I'm so happy with how these turned out. New heel and everything. Basically rebuilt him, built him a custom pair of boots with just salvaging the shafts. Everything on the bottom got replaced. So thank you guys for watching. I greatly appreciate it. This has been a long video coming, or at least in the making, and thank you to the customer, if you're watching this, for trusting me and for your patience for us trying to get everything together. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you have something that you want to get fixed or anything like that. All my information will be down below. God bless you.